Grazia Deledda won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1926, the first Italian woman ever to receive it. Yet her masterpiece, Il flauto nel bosco, has remained almost invisible to English readers for a century. Haberdash Books recovers forgotten classics that shaped literature but vanished from memory. What you're about to hear is a story of a mother in abject poverty burying her husband with her own hands, separated from her developmentally delayed son, fighting for dignity in early 20th century Rome, a novel of such raw emotional power that it rivals Hardy and Zola. Subscribe and claim a free audiobook from our Lost Library catalogue. Email hello@haberdashbooks.com after subscribing to choose any full audiobook from our collection. Yours to keep as an MP3 download, EPUB included when available. Hit subscribe and YouTube will bring you a new forgotten classic every single day. Grazia Deledda was born in 1871 in Sardinia and became one of the most celebrated literary voices of early 20th century Europe. By the 1920s, she was internationally recognized. Her novels had been translated into multiple languages, admired by critics across the continent, and her work commanded serious critical attention. In 1926, at the height of her career and fame, the Swedish Academy awarded her the Nobel Prize in Literature, making her the first Italian woman and only the fourth woman ever to receive the honor. Her citation praised her idealistically inspired presentations of life. She died in 1936, still celebrated in Italy, but outside her homeland, her work quietly disappeared. Il flauto nel bosco, published in 1923 and considered by translators and scholars a masterwork of Italian realism, has been effectively erased from English language consciousness. The mechanism was linguistic isolation combined with simple neglect. No major English translation existed for decades, and as Italian literature faded from Anglo-American university curricula in the mid-20th century, even Nobel laureates could vanish. Samuel Chatwin's new translation rescues not just a forgotten novel, but a writer whose psychological depth and unflinching portrayal of poverty and maternal suffering place her among the finest realist novelists of her era. Reading Deledda now is an act of recovery, recognizing a writer whose vision of human endurance and dignity deserves the same canonical attention we grant Hardy, Zola, and Dostoevsky. If you've ever loved Thomas Hardy's unflinching realism, Zola's pitiless honesty about poverty, or the elemental power of Cormac McCarthy's prose, then Grazia Deledda's The Flute in the Forest is exactly what you've been looking for. The complete audiobook is at haberdashbooks.com. Subscribe and email hello@haberdashbooks.com with the subject Lost Library Pass to claim any full audiobook from our catalog free, MP3 yours to keep, EPUB included when available. Refer a friend who subscribes and you both get another free audiobook. The link is in the description.
A note from the translator. I first encountered Grazia Deledda's work in a dusty, old Italian bookstore, drawn in by the evocative title of Can al vento asterisk. Her prose, even in its original, felt like something unearthed, ancient, vital, and deeply human. To discover that she was a Nobel laureate, yet so little of her work was readily available to English readers, was a revelation and a call to action. Deledda, born in 1871 in Sardinia, was a singular voice in Italian literature. She brought the wild beauty and stark realities of her homeland to the world stage, painting portraits of peasant life, fierce passions, and the enduring human spirit against a backdrop of unforgiving landscapes. She holds a significant place in literary history as the first, and to date, only Italian woman to win the Nobel Prize in Literature, awarded in 1926 for her idealistically inspired presentations of life. Her narratives are timeless, delving into themes of destiny, morality, and the struggle for survival with an almost mythic quality. Il flauto nel bosco asterisk, The Flute in the Forest, is a powerful example of her artistry, a short novel that delves into the lives of the marginalized with unflinching honesty and profound empathy. English readers have, for too long, been deprived of this stark, poetic gem. It offers a window into a world often overlooked and challenges our perceptions of dignity and despair. The opening pages alone are enough to convey its piercing beauty. A stark, unforgettable tableau that will stay with you long after the final page. In translating this work, my aim was to capture the raw, untamed beauty of Deledda's prose. Her language, while direct, carries a lyrical undertone that hints at the deep connection between her characters and their elemental world. I've strived to maintain that rhythm, that quiet power, allowing the narrative to unfold with the same stark simplicity and emotional resonance as in the original. The vivid imagery and the almost fable-like quality of the story were paramount to preserve, letting Deledda's unique voice shine through. I invite you now to step into this world, to witness the enduring spirit of a mother, and to hear the haunting melody of the flute in the forest asterisk. It is a journey that, I promise, will move you deeply. Samuel Chatwin, Haberdash Books, 2026. P. 1 modified the poor. They lived in a cave like the Holy Family, father, mother, child. Only the father was so infirm he couldn't move, and the idiot child crawled on all fours, grazed on grass, ate dirt. And the mother provided for everyone's needs, gathering herbs, some for food, others for poultices or drinks for her husband. All this happened in the current year, on the edge of Rome's green, trailing skirts, embroidered by the granite Greek key patterns of the pavements that line the new, grand city streets. When the father was a little better and could look after the child, the woman would come to the city to sell her herbs. And she seemed to come from the wild prairies of a world P. 2 modified, still uninhabited, so timid, disheveled, and dressed in rags was she, perhaps gleaned from the piles of refuse that adorned the corners of construction sites. She didn't know money, and to give change, she would offer in the hollow of her hand the small coins she possessed, trusting in the honesty of the buyer. A trust often betrayed, even for a vile penny. Everyone, moreover, momentarily wished her well, for her delicate, ageless martyr's face, for the composure with which she spoke of her fate, accepting it as the herbs she massacred and sold accepted theirs. And she would return to her den with a basket full of old clothes, pieces of hard bread, worn-out shoes. One day she returned with a large feathered hat on her head, and her husband laughed with his sick dog's mouth. A laugh not of mockery but of contentment, and the child too laughed, reaching out his small hands towards that marvelous bird his mother's head had become. For on the heap of misery that buried their humanity, the flower of their mutual affection trembled like a fragrant palaenostem on dung heaps. P. 3 modified. On the night of the Befana Epiphany Eve, the old witch, after her flight over Rome, shook her clothes in the powerful, raging wind and let fall upon the cave the dust of the plague that was ravaging the city. The man died the following evening, yawning from the deep sleep that finally assuaged the pain in his bones, and the child climbed onto him, astride, laughing. The mother didn't even have the strength to stop the sad game. Crouched beside the two creatures, she spoke to both in the same tone until the child rolled into her lap crying. She didn't cry. She thought that the dead man had to be buried and she didn't know how to do it, and that worry surpassed all others, until the idea of burying him herself relieved her. For 2 days and 2 nights she remained like this, meditating. On the third, she decided, for the corpse was already beginning to decompose. She went out and 4 modified, gathered herbs, followed by the child who looked like a little dirt-covered dog. No, she couldn't dig a grave. She lacked the tools and the strength, and besides, there was the danger of a fine. With the front of her skirt bulging with herbs, she took the child in her arms and set off for the city. She met a carter and announced her husband's death, perhaps with the instinctive hope that the man could load the corpse onto his cart and take it to the cemetery. But the man shooed her away with his whip like a fly and told her to go to the police station. The mere word, police station, filled her with a sense of mystery and terror greater than death itself. Then she knocked on the first door she came to, and which she, moreover, knew well. It was the door of a small villa where a vegetarian philosopher lived with his industrious wife. It was the wife who opened, broom in hand. The woman let the pile of curled herbs, still cold with dew, fall at her feet on the threshold. "What kind of behavior is this?" cried the P5 modified lady, but her compassionate eyes had already seen the woman's distraught appearance and the child's dangling head. "Why are you carrying him with you? He has been dead for 3 days. I couldn't leave him with him." When the lady heard everything, she cried out, and even the broom seemed to faint. At the cry, her husband came in slippers and wrapped in a flowered blanket like an oriental magician. He listened calmly to the story, then said to his wife, who wanted to send him out to sort things out, "Do one thing, you go. I'll stay at home and keep the woman here." And when his wife had gone, he picked up and put away the broom, then said to the woman, "Since you're here, clean the herbs and put them to cook." And he went back to his studies. The wife settled the dead and the living. The child was taken to an institution for the mentally deficient, the mother to a palace that she didn't know resembled a fairy palace, because in the twilight of her childhood P6 modified only caves and mysterious underground passages, and the Gato Mammon Bogeman figure, often depicted as a monstrous cat, had filled the labyrinth of her imagination. This palace, where she awoke after long, confused journeys on trams and through crowds that seemed like masks, was in reality more beautiful than a fairy tale one, with 2 wings of palm trees opening onto the blue sky and a tail of golden avenue shimmering in a flowery garden. The scent of laurels, however, reminded her of the cemetery. The woman was assigned a room on the 2nd floor. The masters lived on the 3rd. She never knew what happened on the 1st. And she knew nothing of the 3rd either, although she polished its floors every morning. She moved about on her hands and knees like her child in the meadow. And she always thought of him, longing to have him back, to kiss him on the mouth and all over his small, chubby, warm body. Separated from him like this, she felt lost in nothingness, shipwrecked in the gleam of those icy floors. She didn't think they would straighten him out. The future didn't exist for her except until the following Sunday when she would visit him at the institute. To see him, to at least see him. This desire and this certainty gave her an P7 modified, intoxicating strength. Then she polished and polished the floors until she saw her face in them, and in her face she saw her creature again and bent down to kiss her. On Sunday, however, they did not allow her to see him. He had caught an infectious disease that had long been decimating the children of the institute, and she had to return home. She no longer spoke, no longer ate. In the afternoon, the servants went out. Only the chief servant, dressed like a crow and with a crow's face, passed through the solitude of the 2nd floor, inspecting the vast and gray rooms where the workers, who were the palace's viscera, usually worked, keeping it healthy and always new. And the kitchens, bathrooms, corridors, mysterious closed rooms like the 101 in the ogre's house, which if one opens it, one sees its mystery and dies. From a wide-open doorway, he saw the woman sitting on her small bed, bent over a rag she held in her lap, and he asked her if she was unwell. "I want to leave," she said, trying to hide the rag that looked like a hare's skin. P8 modified, he approached her, alarmed. "Why? What have they done to you?" "Nothing. I want to leave." To all questions, she responded thus. The man didn't like her leaving. She was there for a meager pay, and not even an entire agency for polishing floors could perform as she did. He tried to coax her gently. He put his arm around her shoulders, caressed her hair. "Come on, good girl. If they're wronging you, you must tell me and you'll see everything will be fine. Do you want to tell me?" He murmured against her cold face. "Do you want to give me a kiss?" His breath was warm, his mouth smelled of tobacco and raw meat. An animal sensuality stirred the woman's entrails, sealed by long abstinence, yet she pushed the man away with all her strength, using the rag as a shield. "Get away, animal, get away." Then he tried another approach. "Perhaps it's because your child is ill. He will recover. The mistress will go to see him, and the entire institute will care only for him. The mistress is very interested in your child, and she has none of her own. Who knows, perhaps she might take him in here one day. Then the woman straightened her back, her eyes fierce. P. 9 modified, and hasn't she already taken him from me? May she go die a violent death, she and all her wretched dead family. And she waited for him to chase her away immediately. Instead, he left without replying, and she returned to bending down with her face on the rag, which was a dress of her child. Then she tried to escape. From one room to another, cautiously, along the gray corridors, up the service stairs, she sought a way out. Nothing, everything was locked, silent, more mysterious than the underground passages of fairy tales, and she beat against the windows like a trapped fly. Perhaps she could have later, when the servants returned, but later she noticed she was being watched and didn't move again. The night was sinister. She didn't sleep, and her soul rolled inside her, up and down, from her head to her knees to her entrails, to her heart, to the nape of her neck, also seeking an exit that it couldn't find. And she knew the reason for such anguish. The child was dying. Nor did the white smile of dawn illuminate her sorrow with hope, nor did the chime of bells, P10 modified, that ring the nascent day with silver necklaces. She knew not how to pray, and even God was dead for her. The grand servant did not tell her the child was dead, waiting for her to polish the floors first. Then he led her to the great mistress. The great mistress was in bed, soft and white as a lamb among the grass and daisies. And the perfumes of springtime meadows filled that room with clear horizons. Everything was shining and soft. Yet the woman advanced as if stumbling over stones, fearful even of the white porcelain kittens, made of light, that sat mischievously on the corners of the fireplace and seemed to her like ghostly kittens. The great mistress, however, also looked strange, and lay on snow-white pillows as if she had fallen and could no longer rise. "Sit," she said to the woman, who obeyed, bewildered, with the feeling of dreaming yet knowing she dreams, and the beauty of the dream shrouds the anguish of reality in even deeper darkness. Thus, the gentle, troubled voice of the P. 11 modified, lady announcing the child's death deepened her despair even more, and her eyes expressed it so intensely that the great mistress was frightened and wondered what she could offer her.
You've just heard the opening of a Nobel Prize-winning novel that the English-speaking world forgot. Grazia Deledda's The Flute in the Forest is a story of a mother's desperate love in the face of institutional cruelty and poverty, and it only grows more haunting from here. Subscribe, claim your free Lost Library audiobook, and the complete audiobook is waiting at haberdashbooks.com.